said last week, I think it's silly to get up here and get personal. I will not do that. I know it's the only show in town, but it's a bad show. Mr. President, we ride bikes together.
I'm ridden with all of you, but it's pretty fast.
Both of you are pretty fast. That's my concern sometimes. Alderman, I'm reading with interest here the agenda from the Board of E&A this past Wednesday afternoon, at which they gave approval to Board Bill 259. Board Bill 259 we just did, without my help, some 22 minutes ago. And that calls for the approval of Board Bill 259 by our city's chief fiscal body. This ordinance approves the First Amendment to the TIF and restated redevelopment agreement with Northside Regeneration LLC. It permits money in the special allocation fund to be used to cover the cost SLDC will incur for Northside project management consulting services pursuant to an agreement dated such and such. And that's going to be with MWH America Inc. I think last week I inquired as to who the principals were there, and we didn't know. We did see their letterhead. So we know they have a letterhead. I guess my question is, if in fact, is it your understanding that this acreage is going to have the luxury of tax increment financing?
Yes, unless I am deeply misinformed, may have happened once or twice in the past. Yeah, if NGA chooses to relocate into this area, we'll be taking this $2.4 million in earnings tax, which has been the figure used. I just did the math, and to me that figure was pretty accurate. We're taking that, which we collect all of right now, of course. We'll be putting that into an area that already has tax increment financing authorized, and I don't have that TIF bill in front of me, the $390 million TIF bill, which we approved, maybe a year ago. But that would mean that the TIF is going to take half the earnings tax. So it's not really accurate to argue.
Would you repeat that?
Yes. It's not really accurate to argue that this is an effort for the city to retain $2.4 million in earnings tax. It's an effort for the city to retain half of that earnings tax, because half is going to go into the TIF fund, and the other half will go into general revenue. And that, of course, doesn't include whatever current revenue we're generating out of this site. There's some businesses, residences there, of course. So the net is not 2.4 million, and that is much closer to 1 million. And in fact, we're really soon if they do relocate there, just so we're clear-eyed on what the math actually is. We're actually, even with the relocation, we're probably losing about $1.4 million in earnings tax, because that'll go into the TIF. And this is sort of the pattern. This is the damned if you do, damned if you don't pattern that we have gotten stuck in. And the Alderman from the 21st mentioned Ballpark Village. It's the same situation. You're just robbing from beer to pay Paul, essentially. We're not selling any more beer downtown than we ever sold before. We're just giving away half the tax revenue on the beer that we do sell. So hopefully that gets to the heart of your question.
Thank you, Alderman. Mr. President, just in closing, I don't think this makes sense. I really fear. We did in the 11th Ward, took one home by eminent domain, and when I say we, my predecessor, my nephew, it is nightmarish, and this was one lady. Now the end result was Loughborough Commons, which has the Schnucks. It's a wonderful facility that generates a lot of tax, but my God, that one lady did not want to move off of Loughborough. Actually, she lived on South Grand Avenue right behind it. And it's sticky, it's ugly, it's a displacement of what people call home. And as a result of that, that may just be one reason that I think this particular ordinance is ill-advised. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I wasn't planning on making any comments, but I think it's only appropriate to get called out that you can really state your position better than anybody else can. And what I said last week was that the amendment that was placed in this bill was clever, thoughtful, and considerate. And I believe it was you, Mr. President, that offered the amendment in the bill. And the reason I said it was clever, thoughtful, and considerate because it adds another layer to the eminent domain process. What it says is that before SLPC can exercise eminent domain through the court system, that a resolution has to be brought before the HUD's committee. At that time, the HUD's committee can vote that resolution up or down. And let's suppose that they voted up for passage. It still has to come before the Board of Aldermen, this body, and get 15 votes out of 29. That is why I suggested that it was clever, thoughtful, and considered. Now, in the history of me being down here, that has never been in a piece of legislation that had eminent domain. And I would like to know if there's any senior alderman down here that knows if it's ever in the history of them being down here over 30 years being in a piece of legislation. So again, I suggested it was clever, thoughtful, and considerate. Now, what the alderman from the first one suggested was, it's like holding a loaded gun up to somebody's head. Well, not the way I analogize this bill, because if it is a loaded gun up to somebody's head, it has no bullets. Because they'll have to come back to the Board of Aldermen and HUD's committee to load it. And then they have to come back to the full board to fire it. So I disagree that it's a loaded gun. And what's so great about public discourse is we all have an opinion. It doesn't mean that one person's opinion is better than the next person's opinion. What we do with our opinions is we massage them and we try to make a bill that's bad, good, or we can make a bill that's good, better. That is what public discourse is all about. That is why we have people that are against it, whether they're the legislative body or the public. And that's why we also have people that may be for it. Now, it was brought up if someone would do it to their family. Well, my mom, and we talk quite often, she lives on a corner of Emerson and Liberty. And I bet you a year's salary that if you offer to build with eminent domain, she'd be one of the first people to call and say, when are you going to buy my house? Because she's tired of living around all the chaos that goes on in her neighborhood. She's lived over there for over 30 years. So in this process, there'll be some people that's happy about what's going on, and there'll be some people that's sad about what's going on. Unfortunately, a legislative body cannot make everybody happy. Unfortunately, sometimes there's winners and there's losers. Now, my personal philosophy in life is about a win-win strategy in which we all can win. And again, what I like about this board bill with the amendment, Mr. President, that you put on the bill is that it gives an added layer of protection. If eminent domain will be authorized, it will be the HUD's committee that starts it. It would not be this full body. But if this full body agrees with the HUD's committee, then it shall happen. The authorization until then, it will never happen. So that is my position on the bill. And I stand by the fact that it is clever, it was thoughtful, and it was considered. Thank you.
Alderman first.
Mr. Board, I'm quite sure that Alderman can speak for his mother. I can't speak for mine, because she's an independent person, so I would never dare to try to do that. But I will say that if he is truly speaking for his mother and saying that she would be glad to have it, then she is not the person that Ms. Taylor is, who is not glad to have it. I am not speaking to the people who say, buy me out, I will take this is what I want to do. Because you don't need them in the domain for those people, because they will sell you their land. So that is not what eminent domain speaks to, first of all. Second of all, just because we think something is clever, I do not cut hair. So if you let me cut your hair, I might think it's a clever haircut, so you will be in trouble, okay? There are people who are trained to do this. My mother always told me about kids or learned opinions than others. If you cut hair, you have a better opinion than I do about how to cut hair, okay? If you march and you're a soldier, you have more insight about being a soldier than I do. But although we may not think that this is legal down here, the Board of Aldermen, we passed legal legislation. And I've been down here not 30 years, because I had my little party at which I was off, but I've been down here long enough, and I can answer, but no, I never saw this put into something that says you have to, this amendment that you have to come back to the board. But I also was not given upfront a notice after speaking to your office when something else is supposed to happen. So I don't want to get into what happened. I'm being kind of closed mouthed, but I can open up and tell everything. I can say, but I'm not going to do that because you're not the one raising the point. Alderman from the 22nd is raising the point. But there's some more points that I can make, okay? Now I'm just not. I'm going to say this. It does not, it is a step to say it has to come back as I understood it. In order to have a resolution, it doesn't come back to the HUD committee. Someone has to introduce it on the floor. Then it comes to the HUD committee, then it comes back. I didn't know that we were talking about it. That's not what was explained to me in committee where the alderman from the 22nd was not there. It was that it would have to have a resolution introduced here on this floor, and then it would have to go to the HUD committee, and then it would have to come back here. So that is how I understood it. So it's different. That's understanding that I got from, I was asking questions, not making assumptions.
That's the exact process.
Oh, so what he said was incorrect, all right? That's what I want you to know. That is not the correct way that it was told to me, all right? And so the other thing is then who's going to do it, okay? So we did this. So the alderwoman from the 5th, is she going to do it? Is anybody going to do it? Who's going to sponsor this?
If nobody sponsors it, nobody can take up eminent domain.
Okay, but who's going to sponsor this? We didn't, because there's some things that we didn't cover because this was a last minute done in committee. And just for a point of order, and I don't know if I can ask this now, it was put on my desk, 263 for a substitute. Are we bringing this up? Is this going to be before us? I don't know. Does other people have this on their desk? And is this something we're doing?
That is the bill.
The 4 substitute that he just put here? This is a different, this is the bill we did. Okay.
I think it's appropriate that we're respectful of one another. Now, the Alderman first made a comment that suggested that my mother is not independent. See, that's personal to me. What she said was, it seems like he may be able to speak to his mother, but I can't because my mother is independent, which suggests that my mother is not independent. Well, I'm disappointed that she would suggest that because she knows my mother, okay? And she's entitled to her opinion, but I would like to suggest that my mother raised a proud, independent black man. And what I said before I pressed about speaking on behalf of my mother was that we talk on a regular basis because I love and I respect my mother, and she made me the person I am today. And with that, I'd like to call questions.
12 I votes, 16 no votes.
Again, I'm going to ask the galleries in the chambers to please refrain from applause. The vote fails to sustain the motion. Alderman from the 22nd, Alderman from the 1st, you recognize.
Mr. President, members of the board. So I have met Mr. Alderman from the 22nd board mother many times. There was no slurs that were meant by me saying that my mother was independent. It's like when I say I'm black in the crowd, that doesn't mean that you're not white when you're proud. So don't put that as something that it did to me. So I want to address
Alderman from the 28th, please state your point.
I think that we are here to discuss anybody's mother. And I don't think that is on point to this bill, and we've been doing it for a long time this morning. I just don't think it's on point to the bill. Thank you.
Alderman from the 1st, I know you were responding to the Alderman from the 22nd, but okay.
I'm finished. That's what I'm thinking. Said I didn't mean that. I was just saying that my mother, you better not speak for her, and I'm not speaking to it. So I'm done with it. Okay. So going on with what I have to say, because I was finished with it.
Alderman 28,
I mean, I stated a point of order. I think you sustained that point of order, but the conversation continued.
I'm looking, she's moving on. She has stated that she's moving on.
Point of order, I was just saying I was done. There was nothing anything to say. I was not continuing.
And both of us, please just continue with the rest of your discussion.
I have gotten counsel from the fellow alderman from the 11th, who is one of my senior alderman people, who was not here, who was here when I got here, unlike many of the people who want to try to close off the debate. And he has counseled me that just ignore the remarks and to go on. And I have a lot of respect. Sometimes when you come back later in life, you learn to respect people who've been here and gone through the things. So I have a lot of respect. So I was planning on just saying that I was not going any further with that. And that I think that we have said everything that needs to be said about this bill, except for that I'm glad to hear that the alderman from the 21st learned some things about TIF. That is something that we all need to study more closely. The whole thing about the taxes, moving a company from one spot to another, and the government don't pay any taxes. Now we're gonna have 2 sites, because what are we gonna do? I guess, I don't know, what are we going to do with the property that's down there? Will the government then hold that like they did with Pruitt Igo? So now we got 2 sites where there's absolutely no taxes. When we talk about the TIF, when we talk about financial matters, we never down here seem to get any kind of written information about finances. We always hear this, well, this is what's going to happen. I want to thank the alderman from the 11th for talking about when he was state rep, that they would get information about how it would be a financial impact. I would agree with the alderman from the 21st. We need to show what financial impact is. I don't think that I always vote against TIS because I've been for a long time against them, because the school board was always against them, because it takes money. But to put it in context and talk about moving 3,000 jobs, we keep the 3,000 jobs, we keep the earning tax, but we lose any property tax on all of this land. We don't know what happens to the other land. I know that the land that they have right now can't probably be half of what we're giving them. I don't understand the need for all of this security when we don't even have that much for the President of the United States, okay? So I think that's an exaggerated amount of land. I still don't understand why all of a sudden Pruitt Igo has been taken out of the deal. I think that is another red herring, and I think that we doing this bill within less than a month to hurry them down and hurry up is a way to scare people and to say we have to do it. And this is why we have to do it, and that we didn't want it to be examined, and we don't want people to have information. We don't want them to, we just want people to trust our words. Is what I heard from the people over the LCRA and SLBC, no, not SLBC, LCRA, or CDA. Trust us, trust us. I trust you if you trust me enough to give me documents to read. If you give me answers, if you give me enough time where I can look at something and not make this an emergency. We passed a resolution about this very, about the government, June of 2014. So this is February 2015. We had all this time to be giving us documents about this is what we want to do. We know who the members of the HUD committee are. We promise things that still don't ever show up. I'm going to send you a digital information about this, still don't have it, okay? So it's very hard to trust you when you promise me things and then you don't provide the information. It's like you don't trust what I'm going to read because maybe it doesn't say what you say it says.